Hello there, YouTube. My name is Scott, and welcome to Opinions No One Asked For, a video series where I sit in front of a camera and talk about things that I've noticed that people could probably figure out on their own. For this pilot episode, the topic shall be Star Trek, the beloved science fiction franchise. I love Star Trek. I'm a second-generation Trekkie whose biggest regret, in regards to this show anyway, is that I cannot afford a subscription to CBS All Access, and that I had to cram 2 seasons worth of Discovery into a week-long trial long before Picard came out. Huge mistake. I'm the kind of Trekkie who will say something like, I don't know, who needs an elf on the shelf when you have Spock on your socks? But anyway, but this episode is I'm going to talk about some of the movies in the franchise. The oldest, or the newest of which, is still like 7 years old, so I'm going to assume you guys have seen them, and if you haven't, spoilers. Okay, so after the original series and Next Generation movies were released to varying degrees of success, J.J. Abrams was brought in to reboot the film section of the franchise. And when that movie came out in 2009, I was happy as the proverbial pig in, I watched it, I loved it, parts of it seemed really familiar to me for some reason, but we'll get to that in a minute. Next, of course, came Into Darkness, a movie that actually needed a comic book to explain the necessity of whitewashing a major character until he looked like Benedict Cumberbatch. Now, it's safe to say from the characters and the plot of Into Darkness that it's meant to evoke memories of The Wrath of Khan, the second and arguably greatest movie in the Star Trek film franchise, Fight Me. A genetically engineered superhuman named Khan, and a carbon copy of one of that movie's most iconic scenes with a cut-and-paste character switch. Come on. But it was my memories of the reboot, plus watching that made me realize maybe the 2009 reboot is just as much like Wrath of Khan as Into Darkness is, and even further maybe, more so. Now, that's not the kind of thing you want to say without proof, and I don't have proof. What I do have is certain similarities that I noticed. For example, here's the basic plot of both movies. You have a villain with a 4-letter name that evokes memories of one of Earth history's greatest monsters, who harbors a major grudge against a senior member of the Enterprise bridge crew, whose actions resulted in the villain's exile, the destruction of his planet, and the death of his wife. Okay, that doesn't quite track, because Kirk didn't make SETI Alpha 6 explode, but please bear with me. So the villain manages to trap his enemy on a desolate planet before he makes off with a powerful piece of actually planet-altering technology. There's some stuff that happens, and then follows a fierce space battle, during which the Enterprise briefly actually hides from the enemy ship. And then the villain decides that they're going to end the battle by activating this planet-altering device in the hopes of destroying their enemy for good. Unfortunately, it backfires and only destroys them. The Enterprise and its crew live to battle another day, and happy endings all around! Except for that bit where Spock dies. Now, where was I? Yes, that's right. That's just the main plot. But there are several smaller details in each movie that are actually remarkably similar. For example, both movies feature beautiful exterior shots of the Enterprise. That's a weak point. That was kind of expected, I would think. Moving on. How about the fact that each movie gives us a look at Kirk's extended family? Whether in Wrath of Khan, it's the fact that he has a son he didn't know about. Pardon? Or the reboot, where we learn more about the father that he should have known about. Although, side note, why did Kirk need to have a son? Honestly. It wasn't important to the plot of Wrath of Khan for his backstory to involve the 2 main scientists on the Genesis project, was it? Like, I don't think so. Am I wrong? I could be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, though. In both movies, there's a character from the TV show an established major character from the TV show who is not even part of the Enterprise crew. In Wrath of Khan, Chekhov is the first officer aboard the USS Reliant. And in the reboot, thanks to an incident at Starfleet Academy, Scotty is left stranded at an outpost on Delta Vega. However, by the end of the movie, and practically before the third act even starts, both of them are back home aboard their respective Enterprises. There's a scene in each movie where the villain needs to acquire information. How does he acquire said information? He kidnaps a Starfleet captain and sticks an alien parasite in his head. It's important to note at this point that Chekhov got that treatment as well in Wrath of Khan, and even more important to point out the obligatory mention that somehow Khan knew who Chekhov was. But Chekhov was not in the original series episode Space Seed that featured Khan and his backstory and how he eventually wound up on Ceti Alpha 5. Now, as I said, this video is about opinions. And in my opinion, these last 2 points kind of prove that there was actual intent going on, because neither of these seemed crucial to the plot to me. First of all, Captain Kirk, the man we know and love as Captain Jim Kirk, is not a captain in either movie. He's, in fact, not even a member of the Enterprise crew. He winds up on the ship through extenuating circumstances, whether it's a training exercise or being snuck on by Bones. By the end of the movie, not only is he in command again, but both times he is taking command from this guy. This guy. I just like showing off my Spock socks. And Spock isn't even actually the captain in the reboot either. He's made acting captain after Pike is kidnapped and force-fed an insect. Right. And then there's the Kobayashi Maru. Any good Star Trek fan knows about the Kobayashi Maru. It's a test given to every Starfleet cadet in order to see how they would be able to handle a no-win situation, because the test is specifically designed to be unwinnable. And it's not important to the plot of either movie, but both movies have a scene where a Starfleet cadet takes that test, and then later on there's a scene explaining how of all the cadets who have ever taken it, Jim Kirk actually beat it. This makes sense in the reboot because, let's face it, it's at least 50% Kirk's origin story. But why it was necessary in Wrath of Khan, I don't know. I really don't. Now, if you're looking at it from this angle, to me, it seems like the original reboot seems more... Seems like the reboot seems more like Wrath of Khan than Into Darkness. Because the plot of Into Darkness isn't similar to Wrath of Khan. Into Darkness involved Klingons. Khan was influencing events on Earth through Section 31. There was a rogue admiral, which seems borrowed from Next Generation specifically, if you ask me, and if you know your Star Trek history. I mean, there are similarities. Obviously, there's Khan. He has plans. He wants to resurrect his... fellow humans, or superhumans. Carol Marcus is even in both movies for some reason. But despite those similarities, it seems a lot like Into Darkness was more a movie written to be a standalone film with blatant similarities to its obvious inspiration. Whereas in the reboot, the similarities are subtle, but they're still noticeable. I mean, I can't be the only one who immediately flashed back to Wrath of Khan the instant I saw Christopher Pike being force-fed an alien bug, right? So this raises 2 questions. Who did it? And do we celebrate them? Or do we blame them for being unoriginal? Now, as to who did it, J.J. Abrams would be the obvious culprit. He directed the reboot, and he basically did the same sort of copying thing with Star Wars: The Force Awakens, a movie he also directed and co-wrote, which seems a lot when you look at it like a thinly veiled rewrite of A New Hope. That one made a little more sense, though, because he was working with Lawrence Kasdan, a man who worked on the Orig Trig, which is the only way you will refer to the Star Wars original trilogy from now on, He co-wrote Empire Strikes Back, and I'm pretty sure he was involved in other ways, but here's the thing. J.J. Abrams didn't write the reboot of Star Trek. That actually went to his frequent collaborators Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman. They wrote the reboot as well as Into Darkness. Orci was an executive producer on the third movie, Star Trek Beyond, and Kurtzman co-created Discovery and Picard, as well as writing an episode of each and actually directing one. So, they know their Star Trek, and they were the ones who were responsible. But did they do it on purpose? I've done a little digging into it, and I can give you a very definitive maybe. My research stems from an interview they did in 2008 while they were promoting the film that would be released the next year. They were asked what film they thought the reboot most closely resembled, and Kurtzman flat out said Wrath of Khan, and Orci agreed. And Kurtzman said he felt that way because Wrath of Khan had an unbelievable bad guy, and the stakes just never felt higher. And I think that's what influenced them subconsciously, or consciously for all I know, because maybe they did this on purpose, to make a movie that doesn't seem like Wrath of Khan until you scratch the surface a little bit. And now that I think about it, maybe I should go recheck Star Trek Beyond. Neither of them wrote it, so maybe that's why it seems so different. But that means I'd have to watch that one again, and it was okay at best. But anyway, that is my video. I really hope you guys liked it. If you did, please like, please subscribe, hit the notification bell down there. Definitely leave a comment. I would love to know what you thought of it. Tell your friends about it so you can get the views up. If you have any ideas for a future episode, let me know. I might use them. I've got some ideas kicking around, and I don't know how often I'm going to be posting or what they'll be about. Except the next video. I do know that the next episode of this will be about something I'm not going to tell you yet. It's a secret. But anyway, I have been Scott, and this has been Opinions No One Asked For. Everybody has their opinion, and this was mine.